at one point, because they keep on field track of different stats and everything. And it was what was it? They had 9 fouls and 0 cards. The Blues had 4 fouls and 2 cards. And
were they particularly bad fouls?
Oh yeah. Oh, it was the we are going to knock you around and get you off your game kind of fouls, and our fouls were reactionary fouls. And it was just the ref was just he had a talking to him on 4 of the 9. Like, okay, how many more times do we talk? It doesn't matter if it doesn't at that point. If you've already had a talking to somebody, it doesn't matter who the next person is, even if it's their first foul. It's a book. It's a book, and you can let that person bitch and moan about the fact that they hadn't had a foul that game yet. But the ref's gonna look at you and go, "Sorry, persistence. Persistence. You just decided to be the one to jump in and get a foul in here because you knew you could get away with it.
Because you thought you'd get away with it.
Yeah.
I have important news about our streaming service.
Okay, what's that?
Breaking news when news feels like breaking.
We can no longer stream on Twitter. You have to have a premium account to do live.
Whatever.
I'm not giving.
Nobody uses Twitter anymore. Anyway.
Well, actually, we had quite a few people on Twitter that were
really
live. Yeah, that's how Pat always watched.
How much is a premium?
We're not. No, we're not at all.
No, we're not.
No.
Just how much is it?
No money goes to Elon. You stop it.
Yeah, we'll direct people to YouTube or
that's fine. We'll get to Mars, man.
And, Twitch as well. We're on all those, so they can go there. So good. I'm glad to know
just
that.
Trying to aid in the space race. That's it.
Billy, and I quote, "Da fuck."
There he is. Surprise. That's right. We're back to work.
For a bit.
I love it.
We have an NPSL team down here now. Port City FC. They're terrible, but it's fun to watch. I went to a game, I guess last season was their first season.
Right.
I think this is their second season.
That's the same for us. It was our second year, but we're also pretty lucky to have quite a hotbed of colleges in the area. You have schools like Georgetown and Maryland, players. That makes a big difference. And the head coach is the coach of a youth organization. Well, he's not the coach. He's actually the president of the youth organization.
Yeah, so the director of it. Yeah.
He oversees the entire youth organization. And there's a bunch of players who played for that youth organization as well. And he has ties all over the state. And then when they said, we're going to play at Navy Marine Corps, the kids start realizing, wait, there might actually be some crowds here, like a few thousand, and ended up being
set the record.
10,000. They
set the record top 3 times. Is it?
We now hold 9. We hold 1 through 9. The original record is number 10, and our 10th game of regular season is number 11.
In attendance. I think that number 1 was like 11,600 or something.
No, not even that.
That's wild.
The number 1 was like 6,000. We broke it the first game. We did like
no. I'm saying the Blues record, the new number 1 record.
Almost 11.
Yeah. Okay. Just under 11.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's wild
10,
stuff.
789 or something like that. But it was just insanity. And then every match, we a slow night is 7,000.
Wild.
5,000 season ticket holders. Again, you're playing at a place like Navy, so that giant parking lot, and everybody tailgates. It's become like this
Annapolis thing now.
There's nothing going on in the summer. Nobody wants to be in downtown because it's tourist season and it's impossible to get around or park or do anything. So everybody's just like, yeah, fuck it. For a season seat, 5 games is $125. You get a jersey and a scarf. Fuck
sign me up.
Sign
me up.
Yeah.
I should look into ours. I looked up the standings. They're ranked 79th out of 88. So,
well, unfortunately, with that loss, we were number 1. We were the number 1 team because the original number 1 team, which was a team from Vegas, was
they're like paying players or something. There's some controversy outside of the rules.
They didn't pay their dues either.
Oh, they didn't pay their dues in the league either. Oh, wow. So double trouble.
So we were the number 2 team, and we got moved.
Double secret probation.
It's what it is. That league, because it's college players, you're allowed to kind of fluctuate your team and who you bring, and if they don't catch you doing nothing wrong, you never did nothing wrong.
Right.
It's kind of like how old Division One would be for us, where Chile would suddenly show up for whatever Spanish team we were playing in the playoffs. Suddenly he was on their roster every single time. It didn't matter what team we played. It was Fuente's team that year. He was on the roster.
Yeah.
It was Juventud. He was on the roster.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, really? Like, you ain't played a minute for this team. He's like, oh, I know. Yeah, I do now.
By the way, the X requirement started on July 14th.
Ah, boo.
Well, I was just going to ask you, if we can't do it on Twitter, can we do it on X?
All right, kids, let's go ahead and sit up and do a fucking show. How's that sound?
When they ditch twitter.com, do we buy it? Because
it redirects. They still own it.
For now, yeah, but I thought they were changing it to x.com.
It's just going to redirect. They're still going to own twitter.com. They're not going to
vacate it.
I don't think they'll vacate it. They'll just have it redirect.
I don't know.
You're starting talking my industry, man.
I think he's that smart.
Yeah, because it costs them like $25 to keep it.
I think
the domain names ain't expensive. They'll keep it.
Kenny's not telling you about whiskey, so maybe defer to the experts.
Graham's a little rusty.
I'm still angry about the stupid banana team.
Tin roof.
Sounds like a guy should have gotten laid last night.
For real. Thanks, Indianapolis Blues.
I stopped the recording. We're done with sound check. Y'all ridiculous.
Good. I was shutting up. You noticed I was just looking down. I was waiting for the zinger.
Like the silence, and then y'all kept coming in. I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh, real quick, Mel, play some sounder so Kenny can hear it. You can hear it? Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Good. That'll help for the music and everything. You'll know where we're talking and stuff. We'll have you on mute until I introduce you at the beginning.
Sure.
So.
Doing some exporting of files to folder.
It's a fucking shit show.
I can load up the show tomorrow.
Amazing lettuce. So
Sure, Billy goes, what is a special show for? Remember, he's new to the DU world.
Oh, that's right. So
he came in the last season, didn't he?
We're still currently live, right?
We're not ever going to stop being live.
Okay, got it. I just wanted to ask. So, Sure, Billy, what we do every season is we do about a month out to the start of the regular season, we do a spot called Getting to Know You. And it is 3 separate shows where we talk with supporters of the 3 newly promoted clubs. So it's just an hour devoted to them completely and talking about their club. And it could be like when it's, our boy Nick from the Blades, it could be 40 minutes because he's really fucking terrible on mic. Or, it could be Brent and with Burnley, and it was an hour and a half because he's fucking gold. Like, he's fantastic. So it all just depends on conversations. No pressure, Ken. Just laid it all on you there.
Well, Ken's not out of his mind.
Right.
Like Blades guy.
Well, and
Nick.
You want me to talk? I can talk. I'm a talker.
And Ken's a Patreon. He already knows the gig, so he already knows what we're doing. So that's the other thing too. But yes, we do that. And then the other thing you have never seen us do before either, Sure Billy, is we have a 20 for 20. It's 20 clubs, 20 supporters. Super is a nice word. We call it the shit show. But we do a Zoom with every single club is represented by someone, and we try to make it 5 minutes per team. It ends up being like 8 or 9 or sometimes even 10. It depends on who we're talking to. I have to purposely try to shut up Ryan Williams for Everton and Sam Graham because they're frenemies, and they'll just fucking go back and forth for 20 minutes if I don't stop them.
That's the other thing, is we don't represent our own clubs. We're just asking the questions. Yeah.
We have Simon come on, and we have Ryan come on for Everton.
Damn, Jesus. All right.
He's got the point.
Can I get a pen?
I got you one, Sam.
He says that sounds absolutely horribly amazing.
Sounds about right.
It's the longest night of your life if you're one of the people on the show.
Yes. By the way, Houston, never buy pens. I have not only an entire drawer over here of untouched pens. I found your mother's stash.
Oh, okay, cool.
And she hoarded pens.
Okay, I thought we were starting the show already. Miss, I'm fucking professional. We're on the fucking ball.
Just kidding.
I was ready to start fucking talking. Unlike Dave Geckel, we're back, motherfuckers.
Damn.
And we ain't never going nowhere. I know that's the reason why there's no intro tonight, because it's just, it's us. We're back.
We're back.
Season 7.
Yeah, I know. Well, officially season 7 will be after the 20 for 20 shit show, and that's what we call it, the 7th season. But it's those summertime extras where we're gonna get a little
summertime extras.
Pre-show 7.
Talk to someone a little bit about the club. Let's start the show.
Born in the land of Bowie, Maryland. Bred to be a fan of fucking Everton. Punch you in the eye and drink your rye. Sam Houston. Sam Houston? Arsenal fans have another Sam. AKA the fucking Gooner Graham. Son of the Lord. The straight and short. Sam Grammy. Sam Graham.
Hello and welcome to the DU Football Show, a totally biased recap of the English Premier League as told by two common American schmucks. I'm your host, Sam Houston, and across the way from me, just shouldn't have had that one last sig, and maybe somebody would have gotten lucky. My co-host, Mr. Samuel Graham. How we doing, good sir?
I'm pretty good. I can say the same for Harry Kane. Whoa. Ouch.
That's later when we do the Patreon show.
That hurts.
Yeah. To now, we turn our attention back to the Premier League. It's going to be great. So anyways, Producer Mel on the ones and twos. How we doing, Producer Mel?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited for our tastings tonight.
Oh, I'm glad to see you're keeping the liquid away from the board, unlike earlier where she had the full glass and was just waving it all over the board, making my heart stop the entire time.
If your heart fluttered once, you'd be dead. Don't.
It's been a year. Thank you.
It's been a year. Like that's a little, I guess actually it's the right amount of time. Yeah. Okay.
We're recording at the DU Public House just outside the nation's capital, and you can find us wherever you get your pods and streaming live every single Monday night, except for on Twitter or X, because fuck Elon. He now wants you to pay for a certified to be able to stream live. So anybody who normally streamed us live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, we're on everything else. Go there. That's now the place, but fuck Twitter, and I'm going to keep calling it Twitter.
3 places. That's every place else.
Wherever you stream, you can find things. Settle down, Mister.
You can find things. Kenny's in IT. He'll tell you how to do it at the end.
I didn't realize producer Mel put on her sassy pants before recording the show tonight. Or as I always like to say, you can just zoom your ass on in. As is the case of our guest tonight, we have Ken, our good friend. Ken, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Doing
very
fantastic.
Well, thank you.
And would you mind telling us who you support?
I support the Saints of Southampton.
Very good. Just in time to get back up to the Premier League because, Liverpool needs to retool. Sam and myself both work in the wine and spirit industry and both have a deep, passionate love for all things distilled spirits. So as the red-blooded Americans we are, we vow to have a drink in our hand throughout this show and every single show. Mr. Graham, what are we drinking tonight?
So we are continuing the gin binge because it's about 150,000 degrees outside. This is Silent Pool gin. It's from the UK. There's a small farm south of London where it is distilled. All the botanicals are grown there. The overwhelming botanicals in it are lavender and chamomile. Also has a big citrus note. It is fucking delicious.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
A little pricey. You won't find it below $59.99, and you shouldn't find it above $64.99. So it's a little bit pricey, but it is absolutely brilliant. 86 proof. On this one,
it makes for a lovely tonic, and I just went with Q this time. It's real simple. Although hearing, lavender and citrus, maybe an elderflower tonic would have really melded well with that. It's absolutely lovely. Ken, I saw you had a glass of something over there. What you sipping on tonight?
A little Bibb and Tucker bourbon, 92 proof, 6-year age. Just a nice little Nice little pour for a Monday night.
Standard Bib and Tucker that made Whiskey Advocates top 20 from about
2 or 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago, I want to say it was. It's for its price point. It is a phenomenal bourbon.
It's also in my book.
Yeah, I know. It
I
is
sold some
book.
today.
Good for you.
I'll buy more of it.
I mean, you're in Narnia, so I don't know if that counts for Sam's sales at all. I don't know if he worries about Fantasyland, even though his bosses probably think he does. And Mel, what is that you have over there?
I would like to read ahead because I finished the gin and tonic.
Yeah, of course you did. Are you over there pulling a me? You need a cough button, Alex?
That's right. I'll write that down.
I'll write that down.
The official drink of the Savannah Bananas.
I mean, not wrong. So every year when we have our 3rd of July party, we do the community beer pool. And our friends and neighbors are kind enough to leave behind quite a few items. And so we have been tasting them this summer. And so left behind by, I believe, Adam from my cast in Escape to Margaritaville took credit for this little nugget.
Nice.
Zima.
Oh, it was brilliant. He did that, and he also did a Three Bells freaking Christmas ale too, a whole 6-pack of it.
Now, those of you who were not drinking in the late 90s, early 2000s, or was just late 90s.
No, early 2000s.
May not remember what the Zima was, but it is, quote, a refreshing citrus beverage.
And back in the 90s, it was like 8% because it was essentially malt liquor that tasted like Sprite is what it was.
Yeah. Do you want a very inappropriate Zima story?
Yes.
Go for it.
So this was in the early 2000s, about 2004, 2005. I think it got discontinued in 2007 as a brand. You can still find it around until about 2008. But we had a liquor store near our house that should remain unnamed. That would, as long as you drove, because in PG County they had drive-through liquor stores that were still grandfathered in, right?
Yep, I know about them well.
Couldn't build a new liquor store with a drive-through, but you could, if you already had one, you could keep it. And so as long as you drove through, they didn't card you at this particular spot, and all of us knew that.
You mean the one in on Crane Highway in Waldorf?
No,
no, it was in Lanham actually. Where that one was, but anyway, so we would drive through and you would get 6 or 12 Zimas for the girls. You would get 4 or 5 old English 40s for the boys, and then everybody would split a Mad Dog Green Apple. We would all go to a parking lot. Somebody would turn their music on. We would all just drink and hang out and do stuff until you took your lucky lady friend back to your own vehicle. And the first person that got out of the car puking like the Exorcist because you had the Green Apple Mad Dog lost. Basically, those were the days. It was much simpler then. Life was much simpler then.
Life was so much more simpler then. Well, Mr. Graham, what do we? Oh, by the way, Mel, what do you think?
I mean, did you have this yet?
I haven't had a sip of it in 20 years.
It is worse than I remembered. I think I was remembering Sprite.
That's horrible. This may be from 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think I was remembering alcoholic Sprite. And it's got this weird like essence of orange oil. So it's got that like bitter to it, but it's also candy sweet with an offsetting malt appearance.
It tastes like Orange Ice House.
It's
fucking nasty.
It's Pepsi Clear.
Mogan David, not Mad Dog, and you call yourself a professional from the infamous Shore Belly.
I know the real name of it, but that's not what it's colloquially known as.
Yeah. Mad Dog.
But the fact that I said Mad Dog, you knew what the fuck I was talking about, means I'm right and proves my point. Thank you very much. Come again.
All right, Mr. Graham, what do we always have to do?
Always remember to drink responsibly, and if you're going to come at me, come correct.
All right. Cheers there, good sir.
It's like a sweet gasoline aftertaste.
It's so gross. Fucking Zima.
All right. It is time. Like I said, each season, as we were talking about before the show recorded, each single season, we like to have a supporter from one of the newly promoted clubs join us for an entire show devoted to them. and just talking about their club. And tonight we discuss a club that's been in the top flight multiple times and for extended periods of time.
And half of their former team won a Premier League during COVID.
Yeah, exactly. And then their recent 10-year stint unfortunately ended in 23 when it just everything that could have gone wrong seemingly went wrong. Found themselves back down in the championship, but it only took one season. And with the amount of points they had in the championship, it would have been good enough to gain automatic promotion, heck, even win the league any other year. But you had not just them, but 4 total teams that were well in the high 80s to 90 points. It was insanity. And we are, of course, talking about the Southampton Saints, and we have Ken here to talk all about it. So first and foremost, Ken, what got you into Southampton?
There's no real, I don't have any family lineage that goes back to the south coast of England. But just once I started getting into the Premier League, I had known friends that picked all the big ones, right? I figured the world didn't need another City fan or another Man United fan. So was just randomly watching Premier League one morning, was watching Southampton play. I think it was I want to say it was like 2013 or 2014. So it was probably one of the first or second seasons they were up. They beat Newcastle 4-0. And I was just like, I love the way they play. I love the way they attack. And I was like, it's fun. And I was like, I need to learn more about this team, kind of middle of the road, came up from basically nothing. Everybody loves an underdog story. They were Port City. I was living in Baltimore at the time. I'm like, Port City, why not? Let's go for it. So, started watching them there and lived and died with them last year and watched them live and come back up. So that's kind of, there's no real tie to it. I just kind of picked them and was like, let's just roll with it.
Well, and with that too, when you got into them, when they first came up, they kind of took the league by storm when they came up. I believe they had a really good first finish and then they were in Europe the very next year. So it was like, right. They did not fuck around when they came to the Prem.
Well, they had a great academy, and you think of players like Gareth Bale came through there, Theo Walcott. I mean, when they were all quite young, obviously being kind of unknown quantities when they first came into the Premier League, and they did perform very well. So on that, tell us now that Russell Martin has taken over, kind of the current iteration of Southampton, what's the playing style, the philosophy? What do we have going on? Because there's one kind of ugly caveat to all this, and just to get it out of the way and address the elephant in the room, is the fact that there were 4 high 80s, low 90s teams in terms of points last season is showing the disparity between the have and have nots is now finally trickling down. So those 2 years of Premier League money or 4 years or 10 years of Premier League money are proving irreplaceable when they go to the championship. And for the rest of the league, kind of insurmountable if they haven't come up and gotten that 190 million pound payout.
That's fair.
So that disparity is only going to get worse as these teams yo-yo more and more. But besides that, so y'all are back. What's Russell Martin all about? Are you prepared to stick with him? What's the playing style like? What's the philosophy?
I mean, I know the club is. They just got him to a long-term deal. So it's funny because I was used to Ralph, my boy Ralph, and then we won't talk about Nathan Jones, but there was this we always thought that for some reason we could play a high back line and we had the pace to catch up to any of the strikers or the wingers from all of the top level Premier League teams, and you'd see what happened. They just lob balls over the top and we'd lose 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, nothing. To get that one in before all of you.
Twice.
Yeah, it was 7, nothing, 9, nothing, 9, nothing.
So the Russell Martin style and philosophy is completely different. Possession based, lots of passing, lots of continual movement. So I went from watching us get dominated in possession and just be torn wide open to watching them get to do that to other opponents. So, there were games that I'd watch where we had 65, almost 70% possession in the game. And it was just kind of refreshing to just kind of watch them pass, watch them open up space. Some of the best combinations, that were leading to goals were 10, 11, 12 passes starting out of the back. So completely different than what probably anyone remembers from the last couple of years of Southampton, where it was, try to play a high line, try to counter quickly, and, then expose yourself to counterattacks
over and over
well.
and over and over
yeah.
again.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's a completely different style. The fans, I think, have stuck with him. The unbeaten run that they went on last year was just absolutely insane. I think the fans have bought in. There was a dip, a couple dips in performance that just kind of came with it. And, it was funny. A couple Swansea fans were in the Reddit thread or the Reddit group that we're in. And, they're like, this is what happens with Russell Martin's team. They start hot, they have a dip, they put it together. Once they all buy in, you go on a great run, there'll be another dip, and then you'll be fine. Which is exactly kind of how the season played out. So very different style than what Saints fans were used to, but I think everybody has tremendously bought into that, fans, players alike.
So how do you think with that possession-based football is going to translate to the Premier League? Because that's what we saw Burnley do the season prior in the championship, was be a possession-based team, dominate teams, really play with their front foot forward. And then we saw what happened to them in the Premier League, obviously. How is Southampton's story going to be different? What's going to happen with Southampton here? Because, Russell Martin has a lot to live up to. If Southampton goes straight back down, what's he going to get? The PSG job? Real Madrid? We saw Vinny on the back of a relegation get the Bayern Munich gig. So
it's certainly the great unknown. I think if I had a crystal ball, I'd love to look into it and tell you exactly how it's going to go. That it is my fear that, again, you can, to your point earlier, Sam, like, playing against teams where the parity is not nearly where it was in the championship, like, you can dominate possession. That's not going to be the way it is when you're facing, some of the top talent in the Prem. So I'll be very curious how it translates with all the summer signings that are kind of in play. They need to fortify the squad a little bit more. They've kind of done that, and we'll talk about some of those later. But
we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, like if everybody buys in like they do, I do still think we have the pieces in play to play that style, because we did bring in some Premier League experience. So I do think, they're kind of leveling up the experience where, we tried to say, like, screw it, we'll just put in a bunch of 18 to 21-year-olds and we'll, say, all right, kids, learn on the job. So
you need a little bit of experience. Look at the difference of what Luton did versus what Burnley did.
Once Ross Barkley got going, I mean, they were talking about it for the England squad.
Yeah, and you think of just those players who were there, like they helped a ton. Those older experienced players. Now, Ken, a few more questions before we go on to the third. Yeah. In that run ended up being, what was it, 25 unbeaten or 26 unbeaten, something like that, right?
It was 26.
Yeah, and when you were talking about the style of play, I think the play-in game, the championship play-in game for them and Leeds is a perfect example of that. Leeds were toothless, and Leeds were literally chasing Southampton all over the field. The scoreline did not say domination. It was domination. Like, Southampton completely handed them their ass.
Well, Leeds, I think, had a couple of half chances. It was decent down the field. As soon as they hit the final third, they shit themselves.
Well, like,
and Southampton looked quite comfortable.
Out midway through the second, they were just, at that point, they were just trying to throw things at the wall. Frankly, I was just kind of shocked. Like, I expected Leeds to have more in them.
They were trying to throw their shitty underpants at the wall.
And it wasn't Leeds. It was just Southampton was that fucking good on the day.
And I was concerned going into that because we'd already beaten them twice leading up to that. So, like, I always think of, like, in football terms back over here, right? Like, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. So, that obviously gave me pause going into it, where I know Leeds could score. And, but again, like, everybody stuck to it. And I think, Russell Martin has done a great job, like, bringing the locker room to him and kind of capturing it in a way that I don't think – like half the players bought into Ralph. Nobody bought into Nathan Jones. Like, Ruben Sellers was just a stand-in, and it's just I think you can kind of tell, like, just in his entire coaching philosophy and just the way he brings that to the table, like the players bought in, they knew they could do it, and they knew they could be, if they played the best version of themselves, they stuck to the plan, they executed on that. They knew they would be able to win that game.
I can tell you who bought into Nathan Jones, and it's not a very great group if you know what you're talking about. Ricky Lambert. What's his? Yeah,
exactly.
They bought right into to Nathan Jones.
Hey, look, Nathan Jones is the greatest coach that ever lived. Just ask Nathan Jones.
He's got master class. He's got a master class. You can pay money to hear Nathan Jones talk to you about strategy.
You could pay money to
soccer.
get Letizier's newsletter that says that the earth is flat too. It doesn't mean we should.
Exactly.
I want to subscribe to it just to see the bollocks.
Hold on. Is Nathan Jones turning the freaking frogs gay?
Yeah, something. He's doing something over there. All right. So getting back a little bit, Southampton's always been known for their academy. We've alluded to it a few times. You had Gareth Bale coming through, Theo Walcott coming through. Wasn't through their academy, but they also kind of used to do the Brighton thing where they would buy relative unknown talent and train them up. So Sadio Mane, Virgil van Dijk, a few others, and almost became a bit of a feeder club to Liverpool. Obviously, they would kind of raid players that wanted to win things. They would kind of raid those players from Southampton. Players that didn't would come to Arsenal and Tottenham at that point in our careers. So that fell off for a while. Is that back? Do we have any fun, exciting academy prospects coming through, or more homegrown talent? What's happening on that front?
It's honestly not as much as it's been in the past. I think they're still buying a lot of young players. They're shipping them out on loan to get them experience. I think there still is an emphasis on that. I mean, there's still players like Sam Adozie, some guys that they've brought in that are younger that, have played decent minutes. And, I think the path is there and you see flashes of them from time to time. But again, a lot of these guys are still young. They still need to kind of get the flow of it. In terms of the academy, though, like, Will Smallbone, we lose James Ward-Prowse. We bring up Will Smallbone, who, was just magical, the final run in, just in terms of, being our solid piece in the midfield. Scoring goals when you need to score goals, setting up players when you need to set up players. So, it was kind of nice that, as James Ward-Prowse transitioned out as like the academy stalwart, we still got to chant, or, I wasn't there obviously, but the fans, he's one of our own. And you're talking about Will Smallbone. So, would you look at Will Smallbone and go, oh my God, this guy's a stud and he's a player? Probably not.
He's got a small bone.
He's got Big Sam. He's got Big Sam's hairline.
Nice.
But you look at the guy and you're like, this guy really? But like on the pitch, he's just, his motor is unreal. So, in terms of, an academy player that kind of was, a big piece, he was there. I'll mention Jack Stevens, who's a little bit older, but still kind of wore the captain's armband, has been there for a while, came up through the academy. So, those two, while not the flashiest guys, aren't going to make a big splash, probably aren't going to sign big, transfer deals at the end of their spell with Southampton. They did kind of just solidify the core, and you could still say like, yeah, we've got young guys, we've got guys that came up through the ranks. Like it was very easy to support that. And again, going back to Russell Martin, like Russell Martin trusted in Will Smallbone, who, again, didn't have a ton of experience, was kind of here, kind of in the squad, kind of not, to just kind of trust in him to kind of dominate the midfield this year.
So we've actually kind of touched on one of the questions that we're going to get at. So you've done that real well. So let's kind of stay on that for a moment. I would say, with JWP, like, he wasn't anyone that anyone really knew when he was first at Southampton, right? Mm-hmm. It was just, he did all the little things right. And then, oh yeah, no one takes a free kick better than he does. Like, right. No one, literally, no one. Mm-hmm. And he ultimately ended up getting himself a pretty decent deal for, when it was all said and done. So it's like, if you think about somebody like you said, with Will Smallbone, like, as long as he understands the philosophy, what it means to be a part of that club, and takes on that role, which it sounds like he really has. It's because Because let's face it, I mean, yeah, you went down. Yeah, you knew he was going to move on. You knew you had a sellable asset, and the guy deserves to play Premier League football. But it still just has to be a kick in the.
Well, he
nuts
also
when you
went
lost.
down with them last time, didn't he? JWP.
But that's when he was very early on.
I'm just saying he stuck around. You know, somebody like Grealish stuck around that first time.
Right,
you know what I'm
she's
saying?
Not sticking around the next time, but it's still. Let's face it, it's a kick in the fucking nuts.
Oh, absolutely,
to lose a guy like that.
100%.
Right,
yeah, I mean, again, like, you know, what we've seen his right foot do countless times, you're like, how do you replace that? And you really can't. You know, so it almost had to come from a variety of people. Like I would say Will Smallbone, you know, everybody kind of, you know, just stood up to the moment where they needed to. I mean, like guys like Ryan Fraser, guys like, you know, Adam Armstrong, like I want to give him credit. You know, he took a beating when we were up here in the Prem because when they brought him up from the Championship, you know, and he was just kind of the stalwart. You know, was played much better than Shea Adams all year. You know, scored more goals than Shea Adams, and you know, had an insane work rate. You'd always see him coming back to try to win the ball. So it was kind of like, you know, the loss of James Ward-Prowse was made up by the sum of all of the parts. You know, people just kind of stood in. You know, Stuart Armstrong had a couple free kick goals that were just absolutely nuts. You know, you kind of thought it was James Ward-Prowse, but you know, again, I think they just kind of had this more buy-in from, you know, multiple people that kind of took up that leadership role that James Ward-Prowse had on that team. It just kind of got filled in from multiple different spots on the pitch.
To close out that question real quick, I do want to say that Billy Smallbone sounds like the worst pirate that's ever existed. No one on the Seven Seas is scared of Billy Smallbone.
No, not one bit.
I would also just like to point out the slander of one James Ward-Prowse that was done by one Mr. Graham here for his underachievers list.
Past the first 7 games, didn't do anything.
Sometimes you have to be put in a position to
maybe
excel
he'll do
and
well
exceed.
under more adventurous system under Lopetegui. Possible.
So here's the thing. Kind of now talking more as in it, you've already kind of answered a little bit about the question because obviously the style of play and what you've brought on for it sounds like a mix of players. But when the team went down, they were really a very, very young side. And that was, I remember on the 20 for 20 show, you even very bluntly said, it was like, I hope this team can stay up. Like, this is a young team and I'm trusting in Ralph, but there's a chance this shit could go completely wrong. And unfortunately,
boy, did it
completely fucking wrong. How much of that team is still around? How much have you retained? How much have you sold? I mean, obviously you kept both the strikers in Shea Adams and Armstrong. And that certainly helped in the championship because they're both bona fide scorers in the championship, but who all did you keep around?
So, you know, some of the younger guys, you know, went out on loan. You know, they kind of put some additional pieces in there, like a Charlie Alcaraz, who, you know, came out, started the season on fire, and then midway through the year, we loaned him out. Again, not really sure why, but it just kind of made sense at the time. So, you know, there's a decent amount of those young players still around, like Sulemana, guys that, you know, you kind of brought in, you were like, who? But okay, like I see flashes.
Quick. I'm sorry. Who was the kid? Do you remember this? I feel like he was a lone player, but I don't know why. I've got a sneaking suspicion y'all signed him permanently. Came on in his debut and got sent off in the first like 6 minutes, and it was like the second to last game of the season. Was he a low knee or was he a permanent signing? And is he still there? God, I hope so, because that was hysterical.
I am racking my brain and trying not to go to Wikipedia on my other browser.
Taller black kid. I think he had mid-length dreadlocks. I think.
I don't remember the play.
But I think he hit somebody in the hip, studs up or some shit. It was bad.
Yeah, I remember it wasn't Sekou Mara because he's a forward. Was it? It might have been Sulemana. I don't.
Sulemana was
just because he's like. Yeah, he's like poor man's like Sadio Mane, like shows flashes, like great in space when there's nobody around him, can run like a damn stallion, but then, you know, tries to do like 17 step overs in a row and then just gets the ball dispossessed from him. But I'll I'm trying to remember if it comes to me.
Yeah,
I'll
move on.
I'll
It's
blurt
fine.
it out.
I really hope you still have that guy.
So yeah, so like, but it's a mix. But what they did last year, they tried to bring in some of those more stable pieces because I think midway through the season, right, like Alcaraz is great, but they brought in like a Flynn Downs, Ryan Frazier, Ross Stewart came in, he was injured, but they tried to supplement with some kind of more veteran pieces. I'll honestly tell you, Jan Bednarik coming back really, really solidified the central defense. There was a lot of conjecture as to when he went out on loan, how he came back. He came back and was like, I'm here to help Southampton get back up. The path is in the past. Like we're done. So again, he was kind of a stalwart in the center of defense back there with him and Jack Stevens. But then like we get a young kid from the City program, Taylor Harwood Bellis, that's 21, 22, plays amazing all year. And because they got back up, kicks out his claws. So now he's here as a permanent. So again, I think it's a good mix. We sprinkled in some veteran leadership last year. So like there's still some young pieces. It'll still probably be one of the younger rosters. But I do think, the ownership in Sport Republic has tried to, sorry, not Sport Republic. I'm blanking. I think the leadership group is now trying to put in, kind of a good mix, right? Like let's find young players that we think fit the system that can grow with the team, but let's also make sure we have enough experience to kind of help guide those guys, but then also be that kind of stable, calming presence, throughout the game.
I would imagine Jan Benderak wants to forget the past, considering that one of those games he got a red card, and before he got that red card, 2 own goals. I would imagine he very much wants to forget.
He's own goal. He had a great Euros. He finished top scorer of the Euros if he's own goal.
Oh, Chelsea! Hey, Kenny, you better be careful. If he's OG, you're he's about to get signed by Chelsea for a lot of money.
I was right. It was Sport Republic. I had to Google that. I was like, that's right. I think it's absolutely right. So I'll again, it's weird because like, I saw the perils of Jan Bednarik and I'm like, this guy again. And then sure enough, like the guy became a brick wall. I mean, like, again, he had a couple missteps throughout the championship from the games that I either was able to watch on ESPN or found alternate ways to view them. Completely on the up and up, that again, just, took a leadership role, kept guys focused. I mean, playing next to Harwood Bellis, like, making sure that he took him under his wing and if he missed something or, just got a big echo.
You
good?
Yeah, not on our end.
Okay.
All right, so good.
Okay, it's gone. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, so, again, just that kind of veteran leadership, guys that have been there, everybody was very committed to trying to bring the team back up. So, that was nice. It was a good mix. Like, again, the all youth thing is great if everything gels and it's perfect and you get every ounce of potential out of that team and out of those players. But we've seen the bad side.
Well, of course, but part of that other thing could be sticking with some veterans too long. We've seen Che Adams and Adam Armstrong's the forward, right? Or is it Stuart Armstrong?
Yes. Adam Armstrong and Stuart Armstrong is the midfielder.
It's the midfielder. Okay, so we've seen Che Adams and Adam Armstrong in the Premier League and kind of being stuck in that David Nugent zone where or Darren Huckabee zone where they're excellent in the championship and kind of subpar in the Premier League. So what pieces do you think you'll still need going into the season based on the business you've already done? Potentially, I bring that up because potentially an upgraded striker. If that's something that you think you do need, and what else does the club need going into the new seasons, in your opinion?
They need a striker to help complement Adam Armstrong. I think the hope was that it would be Ross Stewart, but I mean, again, the guy gets injured. That was somebody that Russell Martin targeted from the get-go. He tried to poach certain pieces from Swansea as well. people that were familiar with his playing style, because again, easier to put them in and move pieces around, especially if you're trying to solidify your bench. Helps to have guys that know the system, can just plug and play and go on from there. So I think definitely another striker. Che Adams is at the end of his contract and they didn't reach an extension. So I don't know if they'll bring him back. There's been other teams rumored to take him, and I'm willing to say adios. And it's been great. Like, thanks for what you did, but I think it's just best to move on. I want to see Adam Armstrong again in the Prem in this system, because I think his movement has gotten better, and I think it just works better in this Russell Martin system. I don't know if he was the right type of striker for what Ralph wanted to play. Like, and that's why, like we just were like, oh, we'll go out and buy Paul Nacho, who's 6'8", and we'll just throw balls in the box and he'll just put his head on everything and score 25 goals like it's nothing. And that failed. So
playing about 28 minutes of football.
Yeah,
and that was about it, and it was uninspiring and unspectacular. And that was a $13 million signing, or 13 million pound signing. So
exactly.
Okay, like spending a little freely here, not necessarily in the right way. So but yeah, striker's huge. I think the most known rumor that hasn't happened yet is Kyle Walker-Peters is going to be out. I mean, he was just an absolute stud in the championship last year. The kid is phenomenal, but I think it's pretty much a given that he's gone. There was rumor that it would be part of the West Ham switch to get Flynn Downs back. From what I've read and kind of what the rumor mill's saying on Twitter, looks like it's going to be Downs and just Downs for 18 million. And then we're going to try to put Kyle Walker-Peters elsewhere. We signed, some other pieces there, but I think just making sure we have the right squad depth. A couple other midfield players, and we'll get into it when we talk about like the transfers. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but
I think that actually is the next question. So because they do kind of bleed together. So the one thing I will have to correct you on, with all due respect to the Musketeer, it is X now, sir. Okay.
Sorry. My apologies. My apologies to Mr. Musk. I'll go out and buy a Cybertruck to make up for my transgressions. So it's again, depth in all the right ways. Russell Martin was quoted, I think, by saying, like, if Flynn Downs isn't in the squad, I'll cry myself to sleep at night. So guys that have come in, they played with us. They kind of bought into the Southampton way. They bought into the Russell Martin way. Having Adam Lallana come back on a free, again, just that veteran presence, a guy who's been there, kind of coming full circle, coming back to Southampton, again, just somebody that gives you that veteran presence in the locker room. And
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, on a free.
Guy that went to Liverpool.
Yeah,
precisely. So they got a right back. I'm making sure that I don't butcher his name here, Yuki Sugawara. And again, that's kind of like the replacement for Kyle Walker-Peters when Kyle Walker-Peters ultimately heads out. So him coming in, again, I mentioned earlier, Taylor Harwood-Bellis now becoming a permanent signee with the clause when we came up and getting promoted. So again, just more center back depth. We brought in another player, probably most underrated portion of the whole Southampton fan experience is the fact that their social media team is heads and tails above the rest. Like some of the player announcements that they did for some of the signings, Nathan Wood was a player that Russell had at Swansea, and it's they superimposed Russell Martin's head on Buzz Lightyear, and they superimposed Nathan Wood's head on Woody, and there's the scene where they're flying, and it's unreal. Like their social media team is so fantastic.
You mean to tell me you have a Wood and a Small Bone in the same team?
We sure do.
Come on.
We sure do.
I might be right behind Southampton again as my
we sure do, and an arm that is strong. If you know what I mean. So and Harwood, which is kind of close to Harwood. Those are kind of the big ones right now. again, I still think they need another striker that is a proven striker. I can go down the Reddit threads all the time, and everyone's like, "Oh, like Tammy Abraham would be perfect," and I'm like, "Yeah, there's a lot of people that would be perfect," but I think there's talk about bringing Danny Ings back. So I guess we're just trying to capture lightning in a bottle the second time around with Lallana and Ings. So maybe we'll go out and find young Virgil van Dijk and bring him back too. But I think ultimately, like, it's more just like depth. The less I see James Bree play, I think the better. So the further he gets buried on the depth chart, the guy that Nathan Jones single-handedly decided he wanted to bring in, who was just absolute crap. Again, from all accounts, super nice guy, but just didn't cut it. Just couldn't cut it.
Translate well on the football pitch, does it?
Yeah. His first match, I think, in the Prem when he started, it was just he just got turned around. He looked like he was on ice skates out there, and then we had to hear Nathan Jones say, "Oh, he's great and he's wonderful." And
Betterakian performance.
Probably. But this is new. This is new Jan Bednarik. This is new Jan Bednarik. New Jan now is what I'm going to do to borrow from Jan that I've been rewatching. New Jan now.
We got a show title. New Jan.
It's a new Jan.
It's a new Jan. Love it.
So just to be clear, that's someone's name, not to offend our Far Eastern friends.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So with that being said, one of the most important things in the world is because people don't know a ton about the Saints is who is your primary rival? Because this actually has a bit of a tie-in to Mr. Graham and I.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the primary rival is the scum of Portsmouth, a.k.a. Pompey. Who were talking so much shit that, we're going to get promoted. We're going to play Saints again. Like, we're going to be on the same level. And then sure enough, as Southampton's social media team does, put the nice little Mind the Gap photo up with Southampton on top and Pompey's logo down here. And it was just absolutely wonderful. So if we're talking about teams that will actually play in the Prem, obviously South Coast teams like Bournemouth and Brighton, there's some I'd say probably Bournemouth, probably number one, closest in proximity, South Coast.
It is a South Coast derby.
I was going to say Brighton don't have time for you. They're too busy with the Gatwico and
worried about.
I understand. Yeah. I understand. Listen, I'm trying to offer the people multiple things to think about. Until we start the derby with Forest, the Arbor Derby that we named it on the previous supporter show. The Battle of the Trees.
We got to make sure Mark and Ken have a little showdown on the 20 for 20.
So I have a question.
That's where it started.
The Forest tree doesn't have anything around it, right? Obviously, the Saints tree has the halo.
Right.
Well, the halo is above the soccer ball, as you can see right here. So the tree just hangs out.
Yeah, but if you put a halo on something, it's all together.
All right, fair.
That's standard operating procedure if you didn't know. Just made that up just now. If
hey Graham, your Catholic showing.
Yeah. So if that's the holy tree, is the one from Nottingham, is that like the one from The Ring? Because it's just standing there by itself in that field. It was a long way around to get to a shit joke, wasn't it?
It was,
you tried your best.
It's the preseason, Mr. Graham. Not all the jokes are gonna land.
Trying to really shoehorning that one in there.
I would tend to agree that it's ultimately Bournemouth. And for anyone who's checking out the show for the first time, because obviously we're gonna pump this out to Southampton supporters and all that good shit as well. Is for those who don't know, Sam and I have a bit of an infinity for Pompey. Like, we really like them. We went to Fratton Park, but we're also friends with Ken, so I know it drives him completely batshit crazy that we like Pompey.
We just, everybody has kind of a team in a different league, and it was one of those things that with Pompey for us was just like some of the kind of fun facts surrounding the club, like being the longest holders of the FA Cup in a row because of World War II. Yeah, like just that kind of shit. It's just funny. It's just pretty good. And then
if you want to associate yourself,
praise of relegation fodder.
If you want to, join ranks with a group that credits their longest cup hold to the success of Hitler. I mean, listen, that's by all means have at it. That's not me on that side. That's you on that side.
Yeah. That's rough. I didn't say that at all.
Absolutely brilliant.
Now, let me ask you a question. Obviously, you're playing in the free transfer game. Are there any fears that PSR could rear its ugly head against you guys, as it is rumored to do against Leicester?
So I watched a video on this because I got the questions ahead of time, and I tried to do my homework like a recovering Catholic school raised and educated kid. I don't think so. And I think the reason why is because we did make a decent amount of money on transfers going out that should be able to offset that cost.
Net spend, Sam, they call that.
Yeah, net spend. So as far as I know, and my little
doesn't understand that.
Yeah, as far as my little brain can comprehend, I don't think so. But again, like I feel like the rules kind of change depending on what club you are. So who knows? Probably at this point, like why the hell not? Especially if we get off to a decent start, I'm sure it'll rear its ugly head. Somebody will find a way to do something. Why not?
So let me go ahead and explain the math to you. You take the 1, you divide it by 2, you then add the power of 3, and Everton lose 10 points. That's how it works. That's how it fucking works. But it seems like particularly that PSR has done a very good job of making sure all the teams that aren't at the top have a lot of fucking troubles. In the whole scheme of things where it was supposed to kind of fix there being a top heavy league, it's kind of made it even more top heavy. And particularly with Leicester, it's like, I fear for all 3 of you coming up. I mean, not so much Ipswich because you did the League One to Championship to Prem. So they should be fine, but you can't help look at everybody and just go, who do they have to sell just to make enough money to not get in trouble? And still nothing's happened with City. There's been a summer. Ain't a fuck come out about it,
Yeah, I think like the James Ward-Prowse, the Livramento deals, like I think most of those were undisclosed. So I'm not totally sure, but I would imagine they would do everything in their power to make sure that it doesn't come down. But I mean, I for one am just very excited to see Man City's jerseys this year. I've heard they're made out of Teflon, so they will continue to just keep skirting around everything. So I mean, listen, it'll
exactly. So yeah, it seems you want to assume you're safe, but then you look at the rest of at the way everything's played out this this past couple of years, and you're just like, are we? And I like how you talked about it, Ken. It's like I think we are.
Here's part of the problem is none of us are the nerds, right? We don't understand it in full to begin with.
Ryan's a nerd and he barely understands.
But that's what I'm saying. We don't get it in full at all, and we have to sit here and attempt to discuss it. There are so many ways a club can make money, as we've seen Chelsea exploit some of these loopholes, right? With selling businesses to themselves, or them selling a business to their owner that they own for some reason, like kind of stuff that gets them out of the water. We've seen the contracts that they've signed people on, because that is the amortization of their transfer fee is over the length of that contract.
City's own country buying the naming rights to their stadium.
Exactly. That kind of shit. The commercial behemoth that Arsenal and Manchester United are. Right. And really Arsenal are dwarfed by United in that sense. However,
bigger, but Arsenal's still
we're still huge, right? So all of these different factors play into what we're selling people for and what we're buying people for, right? All of those clubs. Chelsea and City seem to have exploited the loophole perfectly, because City has yet to rear punishment. Yeah. Now, should they completely escape punishment, you could say they exploited the loopholes perfectly, right? You look at Arsenal, we have very strict budget the last couple of years because of the summer clear out when Arteta first got hired. Yeah. Getting Obama off the off the books, and getting Ozil off the books. Those were massive losses on those contracts for us, right? They were huge wages, and they were huge spends going out that we recouped nothing on,
Right.
So we were on a very strict budget because of those two players in particular, where United doesn't seem to have that trouble because they sell more jerseys than any other club on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And City doesn't seem to have that problem because there's a brand new oil field every 3 days.
Well, City also just pulled the bit of the you want to sue me? I'm suing you, motherfucker. That's what they did this summer.
The owners on record. We talked about it how many times? The owners on record saying, "I'd rather go to my grave paying lawyers to fight this till the day I die than succumb to your punishments."
Yeah.
It's just they have more money than God, so it doesn't matter, man. They can tie it up in litigation.
Well, let's get it back to the conversation that matters, which is Southampton. And Ken, we now ask the pivotal question, the one that everyone wants to know. How you going to do this season? You staying up?
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say yes. I believe in the style that Russell Martin put forth. I believe the players really wanted to come back up and they want to stay there. And I think they're all very committed to making sure that they bring in pieces that complement that. And they don't just try to make a splash for somebody who might not necessarily fit the system just because, I mentioned him earlier, but like, oh, we need a tall striker. All right, well, here's Paul Onanachu. And, have we ever seen him play in a system that actually fits? Or like, I think they just bought a piece to buy a piece because they felt like they needed to buy something. So I think they're being more strategic. I think, I think the style of play will be a lot better just as a fan to watch for me, because I think it will probably end up in less losses and more draws. So, getting 1 point instead of, ones where we're giving it away at the end or at the death and, getting losses on the tally. Again, I think the talent's there. Obviously, it's just going to be, can Adam Armstrong score goals in the Prem? That's always been the question.
Big question.
And or can Ross Stewart be that guy to help? Does Will Smallbone make the step to become the next James Ward-Prowse for Southampton? Does he really take that next step? Do they find the right attacking pieces to put in here so that they can go out and score 2 goals, against City, against the Arsenals, against the Chelseas of the world? Like, do they put those pieces in play? They have an easy start to the season. I think I don't know if it was The Athletic or somebody that basically said, projections, or I don't know if it was 538, but one of the great prognosticators that was like, they have one of the 3 or 4 easiest, like, first 10 games of the season, I think is what I saw. So, it's setting up nicely for them to get on a run and get some points and get some confidence early, which my hope is then would translate to the rest of the season. So, I don't think they're going to surprise anyone. I don't see them coming up and, jumping up to 8th or, getting to the mid. I see them probably in that 14, 15, 16-ish range.
Makes sense.
And that's kind of where I see it, and then just kind of build a little bit more so that they can start making this, I think the goal now, especially from the new ownership group, is how do we make this sustainable so that they don't go down again, right? Put the pieces in play, make the academy start playing Russell Martin style, when they're young, so they can bring up those pieces, get the young guys to start, all buying in and just kind of changing the mindset there to make this sustainable so that we don't have to worry about going back down to the championship and then fighting to come back up. So my hope is that all of the resources are put in that direction, and that's kind of where they end up. Again, I still think there's going to be times where they show a little bit of the youth, and it's kind of like they've always been. You can win at City but lose at home to Bournemouth by 3 goals. There is always going to be that up and down fluctuation, but my gut and my heart says we're staying up. Whereas my gut said we were going down when we did. So
there's a few thoughts there. So first and foremost, the difference between Everton and Luton was Everton tied games 1-1, Luton lost 4-3, and everybody went, "Oh my God, look at how well Luton played." it was still not any points.
You heard it here
That's why
first.
you're down.
We went over that.
And why Everton stayed up, because old Dice Ball went, I'm fine getting a 0-0 and we'll stay the fuck up because enough of those equal 3 points.
Points on the board are better than not.
And the other thing I would say is that there's a good plenty of clubs, mine still included, because we don't know who the hell the ownership is going to be, even though we're not in any financial fair play issues this year, or else we would have sold Branthwaite for the 40 million that we did the 35 million that Manchester United thought he was worth. But there are teams like Everton and Wolves, and how many people did Palace lose, right? Brentford did not look good down the stretch. And who did they lose? There are plenty of teams on that lower side that you could look at and go, this can go horribly wrong for them.
It absolutely could. But you also, I think if there's going to be a surprise package, it's going to be in this season.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is 18 months ago, you had a World Cup in the middle of a season, right?
Yep.
Then you had barely a summer break, really, because everything got pushed back because of said World Cup, right? Then you come into this season. Now you're playing 60 odd games at those top clubs, right? Then all of those top clubs have players playing at the Euros. You have to imagine at some point there's going to be an extended break or an extended injury for some of these players, if not all of these players.
Yeah, true.
The big clubs could get off to very slow starts.
Yeah.
You know, and if you get somebody, not saying necessarily Southampton, but take them for instance, if they have the third easiest run and if they win 6 of those opening 10 or, you know, get 12 points or something in those first 5-6 games, all of a sudden you're sitting in fourth and you've got some confidence, you have some momentum, then you have these players coming back. So when you come to Arsenal, that 12th game of the season, and that's Bukayo Saka's first game of the season, is he going to be as effective?
Well, and also
you know what I mean? And you could pick up some results that you don't expect to because of that, you know what I mean? And I think the top clubs, you know, City aside, because they have an entire second team of fucking people, you may have a situation where, you know, come middle of October, you see like Arsenal in 8th.
6 wins early also too get you halfway there to where you need to be for points. Very quickly. So yeah, I would tend to agree with how you talked about the start of the season. That's paramount for you guys, because if it starts like shit, probably going down.
It could get worse.
That hard run-in is going to happen, and it sounds like that hard run-in is going to happen at the worst time, which is December.
But if you go into that hard run-in on the back of shit results, even if people only have 3-4 games under their belt and you're not really up to speed, they can still take you to the bank.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're brimming with confidence and playing with enthusiasm and desire, and they're only got 3 games under the belt, it's a little easier to get one over on them.
It's going to be a tough out. You know, even if you lose 1-0 and you were scrappy and your boys aren't deflated.
Exactly. Right. So I think there's going to be a surprise package this year.
Ken, quick follow-up to that then. It would be, how do you feel you are poised as a team against the 2 teams that got promoted ahead of you automatically? Because let's face it, between Leicester, Ipswich, you, and Leeds, any 2 of you 4 should have been promoted. All of you had exceptional seasons.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean Sam brought up earlier, you know, about the parity, the teams that yo-yoed, or you know, and you talked about Ipswich adding in, you know, they definitely separated themselves from the pack.
Yeah, they were definitely the outlier. The other 3 obviously yo-yoed.
Yeah. So the you know, I could very much see a scenario where all 3 next year are safe. And all 3 stay up. So, you know, I don't know, like Leicester's just always going to be this pain in my ass, I guess, that I'm just going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. That, you know, we had a chance to take a sizable bite into their lead and get our chances of auto promotion a lot better. And I think they put 2 or 3 on us, and it wasn't even close. And it was like completely deflating. Of like, well, we just completely screwed auto. Like, we're going to have to go to the playoffs. We're going to have to win this the hard way. So, you know, I could very well see them and Ipswich, who, you know, I got to watch the Southampton Ipswich game, both games. You know, it was, you know, those teams are good, and those teams will be able to compete, going up. I don't know what they've done in terms of the summer signings, so I will look forward to the supporter show.
I mean, for Leicester, I'd worry about losing our coach.
Yeah.
For Leicester, his
Yeah.
coach going to Chelsea.
Lost a coach, lost Dewsbury Hall already. That's
Right.
2 kicks right there.
Yeah, right nuts.
Killed it.
And there's potentially
and 8-point
starting with
deduction.
2-point deduction.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, maybe a little bit harder path for Leicester, but Ipswich, I was very impressed with what I saw, especially not knowing, their history and everything like that. So I could see a scenario where all 3 are safe. I could see a scenario where 2 out of 3. I don't necessarily see, I don't know. It's just, I think Sam kind of nailed it. It's going to be a very weird season, and it's going to be an opportunity for some of those smaller clubs that have less of those people that are going to be impacted by the World Cup to just kind of try to get points early and kind of go from there.
Yeah, and then you have the other piece to that as well, right? Where for Ipswich versus Leicester in particular, you have Leicester that lost their coach to Chelsea, and you have Ipswich's coach who turned it down first.
Yeah.
Right. And how galvanizing can that be, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, he actually fucking believes in us. Yeah. Look at that.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think Leicester, they're the ones for me teetering on a knife's edge.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because that could go horribly fucking wrong as well, especially if they get picked off even further. But that's another conversation for a different show.
Well, excellent.
Just since we were talking about it, I thought it'd be poignant.
Oh, it's very poignant. So that is going to wrap it up, boys and girls. Mr. Graham, any parting words?
Yeah, I got to bring it down for a second, just briefly. I have to because we need to be even-handed as much as we don't like to be. Don't shoot at former presidents.
Yeah.
As much as you don't like him, don't do it.
No, assassinations just aren't cool.
Nah.
Don't
None
be
of the cool kids are doing
we
it.
do a lot of slagging them off.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
But
we need them alive to continue to flag them off.
Yeah.
No one deserves to be shot in the face. Come on.
Don't shoot at them. Just don't shoot at them. It's pretty simple. Don't shoot at them.
That's not how we solve our problems.
Don't shoot at anyone.
Yeah.
No.
That's a great idea.
No,
not for Baltimore.
Violence.
Shoot people, just not former presidents.
Yeah. Gun violence doesn't solve anything.
JK. Sattery.
I was gonna say violence worked perfectly fine for Omar in The Wire until the very end.
I'm actually rewatching it.
Alert.
Right now.
Are you?
And it still holds up. It's so great.
I've rewatched it 7 times, dude. I love that fucking show.
I just got into season 4.
It's so great to rewatch. You rewatch it, you're like, this is fucking brilliant. The things you were angry at the first time, you go back and you go, of course you had to do it that way. This is goddamn brilliant. Sorry, Russ.
But anyway,
there we go. Now we're back in regular season 4.
So don't do that. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, stop fucking breaking into stadiums.
And ventilation units.
Absolutely killing me with this shit. It's Champions League final, Liverpool, Real Madrid. Then was that before? That was before the European Cup final, or the Euros final. Euro final at Wembley. Now this, just fucking cut it out.
Stop it.
No, because all of this is appointment viewing, and an appointment needs to happen on time. And you're fucking pissing me off with it. All right.
Exactly.
That's that.
All right, Ken, thank you so much for joining us. And now it is time, promote away. Talk about where like-minded Southampton people can find each other in the States. What are good places to follow overseas that are Yank friendly, podcasts you like listen to. Well, because there is that problem from time to time.
Well, when you talk bullshit like Leighton Baines is the best left back in the world, you deserve to be shut down.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But Ken, the floor is yours. Promote away everything Southampton, please.
Yeah, there's just kind of 2 where I kind of get my main. There, obviously there's a bunch on X, that accounts that I follow, Saints Extra. There's a couple different ones, but mainly you will find me. Will not tell you my Reddit handle on @SaintsFC on Reddit. And then in terms of Saints podcast, I listen to the Total Saints podcast. So shout out to those guys. Never really interacted with them, but listen to their stuff. They're great. And it's always Southampton all the time. So it's nice to get their perspective. Again, with most of them being from that area, growing up Southampton fans, and just being this American that basically kind of threw a dart at the wall. and ended up as a Saints fan. So those are kind of the two places that I get, the most Saints coverage and where I get my info from.
I know that most of the Saints supporters groups are major cities in the United States. Do they do anything regional, like kind of like how Fulham in the South has their crew? Is there anything like Saints in the South or anything like that?
I don't think so. I haven't really looked a lot recently, again, just because of life and having a 4-year-old that just runs my entire world. So
kind of occupy your time a little.
It's weird because like Wilmington has a great soccer community. The Hammerheads were down here, so there are a bunch of Prem fans. Like even in my neighborhood, I live next door to a United fan. Across the street from a United fan, there's a City fan. Down the street too. So there's definitely a lot of Prem supporters down here that again, as it's caught on and become more popular here in the States. But I would love to start a chapter up if we could, but something that is on my to-do list.
Very good. Well, thank you very, very much for joining us. We appreciate you taking time, talking all thing Saints. And next up is injury time. We're going to be wrapping up the Euros. Spoiler alert, it didn't fucking come home. Sammy, let the good people know.
It went to somebody's casa.
See,
well played, Mel.
So, Graham, that's how you write a joke. Okay, you take notes from Mel. Does Mel need to give you post-show notes to learn how to write better jokes?
No.
Because I've been on tonight. You've been a little flat.
I've not been. Bullshit. Fuck you. By the way, follow that Southampton podcast show and find out they're not as funny as us.
All right. Very good. And of course, tell the good people how they can find Injury Time, sir.
It is patreon.com/DU Football Show. Just sign up to that one beautiful $5 tier that we got. You get all of our extra shit. Sound check, which is our actual sound check. If you're not aware, this time we all were kind of silent while Mel figured out the Zoom for a minute.
Yeah.
It's pretty riveting stuff. We also catch up from our week and talk about personal shit a lot. And then Injury Time, which Sam said is our preview show. This summer has been the recap of the Euros, obviously, but normally where we preview the upcoming week of Premier League action and FA Cup stuff.
And Ken was fucking in the championship, and he was a fucking Patreon supporter. So be a Patreon supporter, damn it.
Exactly right.
And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to review, obviously, Ipswich, and we're going to talk to
Leicester as well.
Mark with Leicester, and we will do our giant 20 for 20 supporter show. So till next week, everybody.
Good night.
All right. Show is ended. You're still live.
Very good, but we're clear.
Sweet.
Excellent. I love it. Ken, fantastic job.
Well
Thank
done,
you
bro.
very,
Thank you.
very much.
Good to be back.
And you're good for the 29th for the shit show. Perfect.
I will be there. I will be less wordy.
Love it. Excellent. As you find more people, anything you want to promote, just keep letting us know. We'll make sure we do our part on our end to promote as well, because that's kind of been.
Oh, yes, Taylor. Sound check. There's meme material in there for you, sir. In fact, I will upload that right now.
Oh, there's so much meme material.
I'm not happy about it.
Okay, well, you just go ahead and be dissatisfied, young man. That's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
I'm allowed an opinion. I'm not trying to shut it down. I'm just saying it, doesn't belong in America. That's it. The Studio H podcast email address, communicate with Mel. Would love for you to set up an intro for the team for this season. So I just want to make sure we have them. And Sam and I don't like to hear them. We like to hear them cold. So just figure out with her. You probably just as simple as doing an audio recording on your phone and sending it to her.
And then just sending it to me.
Yeah.
Easy enough. I gotta come up with some material, some old 9-0 material. We'll figure it out.
Apparently, if you need Melissa's help, she can help you write jokes. Supposedly, it's the first I've heard of it. We're starting our 7th season.
Her joke lands harder than yours.
Greg Garcia did call me a comedy genius.
Yeah, that's because he didn't meet me. Because I wasn't invited to the fucking show.
You had nothing to offer to the show.
I had a lot to offer to the show. You all just don't recognize game.
I mean, your contribution was talking about how much you loved, Hitler and World War II. So
Not true. I didn't say that. You read false context.
Sounds pretty.
I was gonna say in the Greg Garcia interview, all I offered is that I really like him on Tony Kornheiser when he used to be an intern
20 years ago. Yeah,
that's kind of what I offered.
Nice, well done. And
But
I couldn't bring anything to the table.
Well, the difference is as a host, I needed to just get out of the way and steer the bus, and you would have been like me.
I'm not that ref at the Blues game.
Me. All right, perfect. Ken, thank you very much. We're going to
of course
break, and then we're going to go ahead and do injury time, which really shouldn't be that long because it's 3 fucking games.
Yep.
And there ain't much to say. It didn't come home.
Yep.
It did not come home.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it was at that moment they knew that they fucked up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Good seeing all of your faces.
You too, bro.
Thank you.
Tell Malu said hey.
Later. I will. See you guys.
Ken.
Yes.